Dr. Laura Mitchell pressed her hand against the cold glass of the observation window. Beyond it, 37 refugee ships floated in the darkness of space like scattered stars. Inside those ships, people were dying. Not from weapons or accidents, but from something far worse. Something the galaxy's best doctors said could not be stopped. Patient number 44 has passed, announced Dr. Thorell. His crystalline body shifted from pale green to deep blue as he spoke. Laura had learned to read those color changes over the past 2 years working aboard the Asclepius. Blue meant sadness. Blue meant another death he could not prevent. Laura walked over to the holographic display floating between them. The face of a young Milleran female stared back at her. Gray skin. Sunken eyes. A body that looked ancient despite being only 19 cycles old. The file said her name was Kessa. She had died surrounded by family, singing the traditional death songs of her people. How long did she have the syndrome? Laura asked. 17 days from first symptoms to death. Standard progression. Thorell's many eyes blinked in sequence. Her cellular structure aged approximately 40 years in that time. There was nothing we could do. Laura pulled up the medical scans. She had seen them dozens of times now, but she studied them again anyway. The cellular cascade syndrome attacked at the genetic level. It triggered something in the cells that made them age rapidly. Telomeres collapsed. DNA unwound. The body simply gave up and grew old in a matter of weeks. The Valerian Collective has studied this disease for 3 generations, Thorell continued. He moved closer, his crystalline form catching the light from the displays. The Kethran medical academies have analyzed every possible treatment pathway. Even the ancient Solari, with their 1,000 years of biological knowledge, have declared it beyond cure. We must accept this, Dr. Mitchell. Accept it? Laura turned to face him. Thorell, there are over 200 infected people on those ships right now. You want me to just accept that they're all going to die? I want you to help them pass with dignity. That is what we do when medicine reaches its natural limits. Natural limits. Laura shook her head. You know what humans call natural limits? A starting point. Thorell's body flashed orange. Laura had learned that color too. Orange meant frustration. This is not about human stubbornness. This is about reality. The syndrome cannot be reversed. It cannot be slowed. It cannot be stopped. These are facts proven by multiple species across multiple generations of research. Laura looked back at the refugee ships. Somewhere in those vessels, people were watching their loved ones age before their eyes. Parents watching children become elderly. Partners watching each other wither. And the galaxy's response was to sing songs and make them comfortable. What if we tried aggressive gene therapy? Laura asked. Attempted. Failed. The cellular damage occurs too rapidly. Stem cell transplants? The cascade affects the new cells as well. They age just as quickly. Targeted telomerase activation? Thorell's color shifted to red. Laura had never seen red before. Dr. Mitchell, that approach was tried 40 years ago by the Draenus. They lost 200 researchers when the telomerase activation triggered uncontrolled cellular growth. Cancer consumed them in days. That research is now forbidden under galactic medical law. So we do nothing? We provide comfort. We provide dignity. We provide peace. Thorell moved toward the door. I understand this is difficult for you. Humans have only been part of the galactic medical community for 23 years. You have not yet learned that some battles cannot be won. You still think every problem has a solution. Because they do, Laura said quietly. No, Dr. Mitchell. Sometimes the universe simply says no, and wisdom lies in accepting that answer. Thorell paused at the doorway. The medical council meets in 1 hour. We will discuss expanding palliative care to all infected individuals. Your presence is required. He left, and Laura stood alone in the observation room. She pulled up the syndrome data again. Dozens of files. Hundreds of studies. Thousands of dead patients across multiple species and decades of research. Every attempt at treatment had failed. Every theoretical approach had been tried. Every possible avenue had been explored and found to be a dead end. The galaxy had given up. But Laura Mitchell was human, and humans had a long history of ignoring what the universe said was impossible. She thought about Earth's medical history. About doctors who had infected themselves with diseases to understand them. About researchers who had tested dangerous treatments on their own bodies before trying them on patients. About the countless times humanity had been told something was incurable, only to cure it anyway. Her fingers moved across the holographic interface, pulling up human cellular research. Human telomere structures. Human regenerative capabilities. There was something there. Something different about human cells that other species didn't have. A redundancy in the DNA repair mechanisms. An unusual resilience to cellular damage. Dr. Mitchell? A voice interrupted her thoughts. She turned to see Nurse Pella, a young Milleran, standing in the doorway. Her face was drawn, exhausted. Another patient is asking for you. Bed 47. Laura followed her into the medical bay. The smell hit her first. Not unpleasant but strange. Like old paper and dried flowers. It was the smell of rapid aging, of bodies giving up too soon. Bed 47 held an elderly Catherine male. At least he looked elderly. His file said he was 32. He had been infected for 11 days. Doctor, he whispered, his voice weak. Is it true? That there's nothing you can do? Laura knelt beside his bed. She wanted to lie. She wanted to give him hope. But medical ethics demanded honesty. The other doctors believe the syndrome cannot be cured. But you don't believe that? Laura paused. I believe that cannot be cured, and has not been cured yet, are two different things. The Catherine's eyes focused on her with sudden intensity. Then why aren't you trying? Because I don't have permission. Because the treatments I would try are forbidden. Because the galaxy has rules, the patient finished. My daughter is on ship 17. She's infected too. She's only 8 cycles old. His hand gripped Laura's with surprising strength. I don't care about rules, doctor. I care about my daughter living long enough to grow up. Laura held his hand. She didn't make promises. She couldn't. Not yet. But as she left the medical bay and headed toward her private laboratory, she made a decision. The galaxy could accept defeat if it wanted to. The galaxy could sing its death songs and provide its comfortable endings. But Laura Mitchell was human. And humans didn't accept incurable as an answer. They saw it as a challenge. The medical council could have their meeting. They could expand their palliative care. They could prepare their patients for dignified deaths. Laura had other plans. Dangerous plans. Forbidden plans. Plans that started with 3 words she had learned in medical school. First, do no harm. But sometimes doing no harm meant taking terrible risks. And if those risks had to be taken, Laura would take them herself first. She sealed the laboratory door behind her and began to work. Laura's private laboratory was small, barely larger than a storage closet. But it had everything she needed. A gene sequencer. A protein synthesizer. A centrifuge. And most importantly, privacy. The Asclepius gave all senior researchers personal lab space for independent study. The ship's designers had not considered that anyone would use that space to break galactic law. She had been working for 72 hours straight. Her eyes burned. Her hands shook from too much caffeine and too little sleep. But the work was done. On the table before her sat a single syringe filled with amber liquid. Inside that liquid were modified viruses carrying human DNA sequences. Sequences that could, theoretically, reset cellular aging. Theoretically. Laura picked up the syringe and held it up to the light. Such a small thing. Such a dangerous thing. The Draenus researchers had tried something similar 40 years ago. Their test subjects had died screaming as cancerous growths consumed their bodies in a matter of days. The galactic medical community had banned that entire line of research. Using it meant imprisonment. Maybe execution, depending on which system had jurisdiction. But Laura had studied the Draenus failure. She had found their mistake. They had activated telomerase without any control mechanism. Like pressing the accelerator of a vehicle with no brakes. Her approach was different. She had included inhibitor sequences. Safety switches built into the very genes she was introducing. If cells started growing out of control, the switches would activate and shut everything down. At least that was the theory. She set the syringe down and pulled up her own medical scans. Baseline data. Heart rate, blood pressure, cellular markers, everything. If this went wrong, she wanted a complete record. Future researchers could learn from her mistakes. Maybe they could succeed where she failed. Her communicator buzzed. A message from Dr. Thorell. Medical Council meeting begins in 10 minutes. Your attendance is mandatory. Laura muted the device. She would apologize later. There was a later. She thought about her training back on Earth. About the doctors who had tested vaccines on themselves. Jonas Salk injecting himself with the polio vaccine before giving it to children. Barry Marshall drinking bacteria to prove they caused ulcers. Stubbins Firth consuming vomit to test disease transmission theories. Human medical history was built on researchers who used their own bodies as laboratories. The galaxy called it reckless. Dangerous. Unethical. Humans called it Tuesday. Laura pulled up the patient files again. 217 infected individuals. 47 dead already. The rest would follow within weeks. Children, parents, grandparents. All of them given comfortable beds and pain medication and death songs. All of them written off as casualties of an incurable disease. Her communicator buzzed again. 3 messages now. Dr. Thorell was getting worried. Laura picked up the syringe. Her hand was steady now. Fear had burned away, leaving only certainty. This was the right thing to do. Maybe not the safe thing. Maybe not the legal thing. But the right thing. She pressed the injector against her arm and hesitated for one final moment. Once she did this, there was no going back. The modified viruses would enter her bloodstream. They would invade her cells. They would rewrite her genetic code. And then either her body would regenerate or it would destroy itself. Laura pressed the trigger. The liquid was cold as it entered her vein. She felt it spreading up her arm, a strange sensation like ice water flowing through her blood. She set the empty syringe down and started her recording device. This is Dr. Laura Mitchell. Time is 1420 hours, ship standard. I have just administered experimental gene therapy to myself. The treatment consists of modified AAV vectors carrying human telomerase genes, human DNA repair sequences, and inhibitor controls. If this recording is being reviewed, it means something has gone wrong. All my research data is stored in. Pain exploded through her body. Laura gasped and grabbed the edge of the table. It felt like her bones were on fire. Like every cell in her body was screaming at once. She had expected side effects. She had prepared for them. But this was worse than anything she had imagined. Her vision blurred. The laboratory spun around her. She fell to her knees, hands pressed against the cold floor. The pain intensified. Her skin felt too tight. Her muscles spasmed. Her heart hammered against her ribs like it was trying to escape. The recording device was still running. Laura forced herself to speak through gritted teeth. Stage 1. Cellular invasion. Pain level 9 out of 10. Muscle spasms, vision impairment. She crawled toward the medical scanner. Had to monitor her vitals. Had to record everything. If she was going to die, her death had to mean something. Had to provide data for the next person brave enough or stupid enough to try. Her fingers found the scanner controls. She activated it and pulled herself onto the examination table. The machine hummed to life, bathing her in soft blue light. The pain was changing now. Not lessening but shifting. It felt like something was moving through her body. Something alive. The viruses were working. They were invading her cells, injecting their payload, rewriting her genetic code one cell at a time. Laura watched the scanner display through half-closed eyes. Her cellular activity was spiking. Telomerase levels rising. DNA repair mechanisms activating. Her body was responding exactly as she had hoped. But there was something else. Something she had not predicted. Her immune system was fighting back. It recognized the modified viruses as invaders and was trying to destroy them. White blood cell counts skyrocketing. Inflammatory markers exploding. Her body was at war with itself. Immune response, stronger than expected, Laura whispered to the recording device. Fever starting. Estimate 103 degrees. Need to stay conscious. Her communicator was buzzing constantly now. The door chime rang. Someone was trying to enter. Dr. Thorell's voice filtered through. Dr. Mitchell? Are you in there? The council meeting has started. Open this door immediately. Laura could not answer. Could not move. She lay on the examination table, watching her body's internal war play out on the scanner display. Every few minutes, she forced herself to speak, recording symptoms for posterity. Hours passed. Or maybe minutes. Time had lost meaning. The pain gradually shifted from sharp and stabbing to a deep, bone-level ache. Her fever peaked at 105 degrees. Her heart rate jumped between 60 and 140 beats per minute. Her blood pressure swung wildly. But she was alive. And according to the scanner, something remarkable was happening. Her cells were regenerating. Old cells that had been damaged by natural aging were being repaired. Telomeres that had shortened over her 34 years of life were lengthening. Her biological age was decreasing. It was working. Laura managed a weak smile. The pain was still terrible. The fever still burned. But the treatment was working. She had done what the galaxy said was impossible. She had reversed cellular aging. Now she just had to survive long enough to prove it. The laboratory door suddenly opened. Laura had forgotten to engage the security lock. A figure appeared in the doorway, silhouetted against the bright corridor lights. Dr. Mitchell, what in the name of... The voice stopped abruptly. Laura turned her head. Through blurred vision, she could see Nurse Pella standing frozen in the doorway, staring at the scanner displays at the empty syringe at Laura's fever-flushed face. "Close the door," Laura whispered. "Please. Close the door and don't tell anyone." Pella stood motionless for a long moment. Then she stepped inside and sealed the door behind her. 3 days had passed since Laura had injected herself with the experimental gene therapy. 3 days of hiding in her laboratory while her body transformed. 3 days of Nurse Pella bringing her food and water while lying to the other staff about Laura's whereabouts. Laura stood before the medical scanner now, studying her own results. The transformation was complete. Her cellular age had decreased by approximately 7 years. More importantly, her cells showed enhanced regenerative capabilities. The treatment had worked better than she had dared hope. "Your fever broke 12 hours ago," Pella said quietly. She stood by the door keeping watch. "Dr. Thorell is furious. He thinks you're avoiding him because of the medical council meeting." "I was dying 3 days ago," Laura said. She pulled up the comparison scans on the display. "Look at this. My telomeres have lengthened by 20%. My DNA repair mechanisms are operating at twice normal efficiency. My cells are regenerating like I'm 25 years old again." Pella moved closer to study the scans. Her face was difficult to read. The Milleran people had different facial structures than humans, but Laura had learned to recognize concern in the way Pella's head tilted. "What you did was illegal. The Drainus research is forbidden for good reason. The Drainus research was flawed. I fixed their mistakes. You could have died. People are dying right now." Laura closed the scan display. 217 patients with cellular cascade syndrome. "How many have we lost while I've been in here?" Pella was quiet for a moment. 63. Laura felt the number like a physical blow. 63 deaths in 3 days. 63 people who might have been saved if she had worked faster. If she had been braver. If she had acted sooner. "I need to treat one of them," Laura said. "I need to prove this works on someone with the syndrome, not just on a healthy person." "You can't. Dr. Thorell will stop you. The medical council will arrest you. Then I'll do it quietly." Laura gathered her research data onto a portable storage device. "Who's the worst case right now? Who has the least time left?" Pella hesitated. Laura could see the conflict on her face. As a nurse, she was bound by medical protocols. As someone who had watched dozens of patients die, she wanted to believe there was hope. "Bed 22, Pella finally said. "A Kethran male named Vorin. He was the first patient admitted. He's been infected for 23 days. Dr. Thorell says he has maybe 48 hours left." "The one with the daughter on ship 17? Pella nodded. "She died yesterday. He doesn't know yet. We were waiting until he was stronger to tell him." Laura felt anger flare in her chest. "Take me to him." They moved through the empty corridors of the medical bay. It was late in the ship's night cycle. Most of the staff were in their quarters. Only emergency personnel remained on duty, and they were stationed in other sections. Bed 22 was in the corner of the ward, partially hidden by privacy screens. Vorin lay motionless, his crystalline body turned dark gray with age. His breathing was shallow. His vital signs were weak. Laura approached quietly. "Vorin? Can you hear me?" The Kethran's eyes opened slowly. They were clouded with age. "Dr. Mitchell? They said you were sick." I'm better now." Laura pulled up a chair beside his bed. "Vorin, I need to ask you something important. Something that could get both of us in serious trouble." "Is this about my daughter?" Vorin's voice was barely a whisper. "Has something happened?" Laura glanced at Pella, who shook her head slightly. "Don't tell him." "Not yet." "This is about you," Laura said. "I've developed a treatment for the cellular cascade syndrome. An experimental treatment that breaks galactic medical law. I've tested it on myself and it works. But I need to know if it works on someone who's actually infected." Vorin stared at her. "The other doctors said there was no cure. The other doctors were working within the rules. I wasn't. What are the risks?" Laura had to be honest. "The treatment causes severe pain. High fever. Possible organ failure. The Drainus researchers who tried something similar all died. My approach is different, but I can't guarantee success. You might die faster than you would without treatment. And if it works? Your cells will regenerate. The aging will reverse. You'll live." Vorin closed his eyes. For a long moment he said nothing. Laura waited, her heart pounding. Finally he spoke. "My daughter was 8 cycles old. She had her whole life ahead of her. If your treatment had existed a week ago, could you have saved her?" "Maybe. I don't know." Then try it on me. If I die, at least I tried. If I live, maybe you can save the others. Maybe her death won't be meaningless. Laura looked at Pella. Help me prepare the injection. They worked quickly, mixing the gene therapy in precise doses adjusted for Catherine physiology. Laura's hands were steady. She had done this before. She knew what to expect. This is going to hurt, Laura warned as she pressed the injector against Voron's arm. The pain will be intense. You need to stay quiet. If the other staff hear you, they'll stop the treatment. Voron nodded. Do it. Laura pressed the trigger. The amber liquid disappeared into Voron's bloodstream. For a few seconds nothing happened. Then Voron's body went rigid. His crystalline structure began to glow from within, pulsing with light. His mouth opened in a silent scream. Laura activated the medical scanner over his bed. I'm monitoring your vitals. Breathe through the pain. Focus on breathing. Voron's body was reacting differently than Laura's had. The Catherine physiology was more complex, more crystalline. The gene therapy was spreading through his structure in visible waves of light. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Cellular activity spiking, Pella reported, watching the scanner displays. Telomerase activation confirmed. Immune response, it's massive. His body is fighting the treatment. Give him immune suppressors, Laura ordered. Low dose. We need to slow his immune system without shutting it down completely. Pella administered the medication through Voron's foreline. The glowing pulses in his body began to slow slightly. His breathing eased. But he was still in obvious agony. What's happening here? Laura spun around. Dr. Thorell stood at the entrance to the medical bay, his crystalline body flashing bright red. Behind him were two other doctors and a security officer. Dr. Mitchell, step away from that patient immediately, Thorell commanded. What have you done? Laura positioned herself between Thorell and Voron's bed. I'm treating him. With what? What did you give him? Gene therapy. Modified human telomerase sequences with inhibitor controls. The color drained from Thorell's body. That research is forbidden. You've violated galactic medical law. You've potentially killed this patient. Or I've saved him. Security, remove Dr. Mitchell from this medical bay. She is under arrest for... Wait. The voice was weak but clear. Voron had managed to sit up slightly. His body was still glowing, but the light was steadier now. Less chaotic. Wait. The pain is stopping. I can feel. Something is changing. Everyone fell silent. Laura checked the scanner displays. Voron's cellular degeneration had stopped. More than stopped. His cells were regenerating. The gray color was fading from his crystalline structure, replaced by the clear blue of youth. It's working, Pella whispered. Dr. Thorell moved closer, staring at the scanner in disbelief. This isn't possible. It's happening, Laura said. And there are 154 more patients who need this treatment. Thorell's body cycled through multiple colors. Red anger, blue sadness, green confusion, orange frustration. Finally, he settled on a color Laura had never seen before. A soft purple that seemed to glow from within. We need to convene the medical council, he said quietly. Immediately. All of them. This changes everything. The medical council chamber was crowded. 7 senior doctors from different species sat around the curved table. Dr. Thorell stood at the center, his crystalline body shifting between colors as he tried to maintain composure. Laura sat in the defendant's chair, hands folded calmly in her lap. Behind her, visible through the large window, Voron walked slowly across the medical bay. He had been near death 36 hours ago. Now he looked middle-aged instead of ancient. This is unprecedented, said Dr. Krell, the Solari representative. Her scaled face was difficult to read, but her voice carried clear disapproval. Dr. Mitchell has violated 3 separate galactic medical treaties. She experimented on herself without approval. She administered forbidden treatments to a patient. She ignored all established protocols. She saved a life. Nurse Pella spoke from the back of the room. She was not supposed to speak, but she did anyway. Voron was dying. Now he's walking, talking, eating solid food. His cellular age has decreased by 15 years. One success does not justify breaking the law, Dr. Krell responded. The Draenish tried similar approaches. 200 researchers died. Their families still mourn. Laura leaned forward. The Draenish approach was flawed. They activated telomerase without any control mechanism. I included inhibitor sequences. Safety protocols. My treatment is fundamentally different. You tested it on 1 human and 1 Catherine, said Dr. Norvis, a being of pure energy contained in a medical suit. His voice was synthesized, emotionless. A sample size of 2. This is not sufficient data to claim safety or efficacy. Then let me treat more patients, Laura said. I have enough gene therapy prepared for 20 treatments. Let me prove it works. The room erupted in argument. Multiple doctors spoke at once, their voices overlapping in different languages and tones. Dr. Thorell raised his arms, and gradually the chamber quieted. The question before us is not simply about Dr. Mitchell's actions, Thorell said carefully. It is about our entire approach to medicine. We have always valued caution, patience, acceptance of natural limits. This is the foundation of galactic medical ethics. And it's killed thousands of people, Laura said quietly. How many plagues have been declared incurable? How many diseases have we accepted as impossible to treat? What if we're wrong? What if incurable just means we gave up too soon? Dr. Krell's scales rippled with anger. You speak from ignorance. Human medicine has only existed at the galactic level for 2 decades. Our civilizations have practiced healing for thousands of years. We have learned through bitter experience that aggressive intervention causes more harm than good. Your civilizations have learned to accept death, Laura countered. Human civilization learned to fight it. And how many humans died in your medical experiments? Dr. Krell demanded. How many victims did your fighting create? Laura met her gaze steadily. Too many. Humans have made terrible mistakes. We've killed people trying to save them. We've caused suffering in the pursuit of cures. Our medical history is full of horror stories. She paused. But it's also full of miracles. Diseases that killed millions now kill no one. Injuries that were death sentences are now minor inconveniences. We refuse to accept impossible, and people lived because of it. The chamber fell silent. Dr. Norvis spoke first. The human approach is statistically reckless. Your species accepts casualty rates that we would find morally unacceptable. Because we value different things, Laura said. You value safety and dignity. We value hope and possibility. Neither approach is wrong. They're just different. Dr. Thorell's body shifted to that strange purple color again. I have been thinking about this for the past 36 hours. About why I was so opposed to Dr. Mitchell's research. I believed I was protecting patients, maintaining ethical standards. But perhaps. He paused, choosing his words carefully. Perhaps I was also protecting myself from hope. Hope is painful when it fails. Acceptance is easier. Acceptance is surrender, Laura said softly. And I understand why you choose it. I do. Watching patients die is horrible. Trying to save them and failing is even worse. But giving up before you try? That's something I can't do. A message alert chimed through the chamber. Dr. Thorell checked his communicator, and his body flashed bright green. Surprise. What is it? Dr. Krell asked. News has spread to the refugee convoy, Thorell said slowly. About Voron's recovery. We're receiving hundreds of messages. Families of infected patients are demanding the treatment. They're threatening to storm the Asclepius if we refuse. They cannot demand experimental treatment, Dr. Krell said. This is not how medicine works. Another alert. Then another. Dr. Norvis checked his own communicator. I'm receiving messages from the Solari Medical Academy. They want all research data on the human gene therapy approach. They want to study it. More alerts flooded in. The chamber filled with notification sounds from multiple devices. Laura watched as the doctor's expressions changed. Confusion. Something that might have been excitement. The convoy leaders are requesting a meeting, Thorell said. They want to speak with Dr. Mitchell directly. Absolutely not, Dr. Krell said. She's under arrest. Actually, Dr. Norvis said, his synthesized voice careful. She's under investigation. No formal charges have been filed. And if the convoy leaders wish to hear her testimony, we may not have legal authority to prevent it. Dr. Thorell looked at Laura for a long moment. His body cycled through colors. Red, blue, orange, green, and finally that soft purple. Dr. Mitchell, you understand that if we allow you to continue this treatment, you bear full responsibility for the outcomes. Every success. Every failure. Every death. I understand, Laura said. You also understand that you'll need to work with other species. Adapt your treatment for different physiologies. Some patients may react poorly. Some may die despite treatment. I understand that too. Then I propose a compromise, Thorell said, addressing the council. We allow Dr. Mitchell to continue treatment under strict supervision. Every patient must provide informed consent. Every treatment must be documented. We monitor outcomes carefully and halt the program if mortality rates exceed acceptable thresholds. What's an acceptable threshold? Dr. Krell demanded. Higher than what we currently accept for palliative care, Dr. Norvis said thoughtfully. If patients are going to die anyway, attempting treatment that might save them is ethically defensible. Even if the treatment itself carries risks. Laura felt something loosen in her chest. Hope. Real hope. I'll need help. I can't treat 150 patients alone. I'll need other doctors, nurses, lab technicians. You'll have them, Thorol said. On one condition. You teach us everything you know about human medical approaches. Why you take these risks. How you balance hope against harm. We may not agree with your philosophy, but we should at least understand it. Deal? Laura said immediately. Dr. Krell stood abruptly. I formally object to this decision. It sets a dangerous precedent. It undermines thousands of years of medical wisdom. Then object on the record, Dr. Norvis said. But I vote to allow the treatment program. As do I, said Thorol. One by one the other doctors voiced their positions. 4 in favor. 3 opposed. The treatment program was approved. Laura stood, legs shaky with relief. Through the window she could see the refugee ships in the distance. Somewhere on those vessels 154 people were dying. People who now had a chance. A dangerous chance. An uncertain chance. But a chance nonetheless. And that's what humans did best. They took impossible situations and created possibilities. They looked at death and said, not today. They refused to accept the universe's final answer. Laura headed toward the laboratory. She had work to do. Lives to save. Or die trying. 2 weeks had passed since the medical council approved Laura's treatment program. The Asclepius Medical Bay had transformed into something between a hospital and a research laboratory. Doctors from 7 different species worked alongside Laura, learning to adapt the gene therapy for different physiologies. Nurses monitored patients around the clock. The air hummed with activity and hope. 123 patients had received treatment. 117 were recovering. 6 had died. Laura sat in her office reviewing the case files of those 6 deaths. A Milleran child whose immune system had rejected the therapy too violently. 2 elderly Solari whose bodies were too weak to handle the cellular regeneration. A Kethran engineer who had developed unexpected complications. 2 others whose deaths remained unexplained despite extensive analysis. 6 deaths out of 123 treatments. A 95% success rate. By human medical standards it was a triumph. By galactic standards, it was a catastrophe. The door chimed. Dr. Thorol entered, his crystalline body a muted blue. The Galactic Medical Council has arrived. They want to speak with you. Laura had known this was coming. Word of her treatment program had spread far beyond the refugee convoy. Now the highest medical authority in the galaxy wanted answers. Wanted to know if she should be celebrated or imprisoned. How bad is it? Laura asked. 3 council members want you arrested immediately. 2 want to study your methods. 1 remains undecided. Thorol paused. The hearing begins in 1 hour. Laura followed Thorol to the main conference chamber. It was larger than the ship's medical council room, with holographic displays showing the faces of council members from across the galaxy. Some were present physically. Others appeared as projections. All of them looked stern. The chamber was packed. Patients who had recovered filled the seats. Families of those who had died stood in the back. News crews from multiple species recorded everything. This wasn't just a medical hearing anymore. It had become something bigger. Counselor Vex Nor, a massive being with multiple arms, called the session to order. Dr. Laura Mitchell, you stand accused of violating galactic medical law. Specifically, conducting forbidden genetic research, administering experimental treatment without proper authorization, and causing the deaths of 6 sentient beings. How do you respond? Laura stood. I don't deny any of those facts. I broke the law. I took terrible risks. And 6 people died under my care. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Dr. Krell, who sat among the council members, looked satisfied. Then you admit guilt? I admit responsibility, Laura said. But I don't admit that what I did was wrong. 117 people are alive today who would have died. That has to count for something. 6 deaths count for something as well, Counselor Vex Nor said gravely. The families of those who died deserve justice. May I speak? A voice came from the audience. An elderly Solari woman stood slowly. Laura recognized her. Mother of one of the patients who had died. A female named Ressa who had been 73 years old and too weak to survive the treatment. "You may address the council," Vexnor said. The Solari woman moved to the front of the chamber. Her scales were pale with age, but her voice was strong. "My daughter died 12 days ago. Dr. Mitchell's treatment caused her death. This is a fact." Laura felt the words like knives. She had reviewed Ressa's case 100 times, looking for what she could have done differently. "But I want you to understand something," the Solari woman continued. "Before Dr. Mitchell arrived, I had accepted my daughter's death. The doctors said there was no cure. I had made peace with losing her. Then Dr. Mitchell offered hope. She warned us of the risks. She told us Ressa might die faster with treatment than without it. And my daughter chose to try anyway." The chamber was silent. The Solari woman turned to face Laura directly. "My daughter died fighting for her life instead of surrendering to disease. She died with hope instead of despair. Dr. Mitchell gave her that choice. I will always be grateful for that gift even though it ended in death." Another person stood. Then another. Vorin walked to the front, his crystalline body clear and blue with health. "I should have died 3 weeks ago. Instead I'm here. I've been given a second chance at life." A young Milleran spoke next. "My brother received treatment. He survived. He's 7 years old. He gets to grow up now." One by one, survivors and families testified. Some spoke of miraculous recoveries. Others spoke of loved ones who had died during treatment but had chosen to try rather than give up. The pattern became clear. Every patient had known the risks. Every patient had chosen hope over acceptance. Counselor Vexnor raised his arms for silence. "We have heard testimony about outcomes. But this hearing is about methods. Dr. Mitchell, you violated laws that exist for good reason. The Drainus disaster killed 200 researchers. We created restrictions to prevent such tragedies from happening again. And those restrictions condemned thousands to die from diseases we stopped trying to cure," Laura said. "The Drainus researchers made mistakes. I learned from their mistakes. That's how science works. We fail, we learn, we improve. But if we never try, we never learn anything." "You're asking us to abandon millennia of medical wisdom," Dr. Krell said sharply. "To embrace reckless human methods that prioritize action over caution." "I'm asking you to recognize that different approaches have value," Laura replied. "Your methods work. They save lives through careful, conservative treatment. But your methods also give up on people who might be saved. Both approaches have a place. Neither is completely right or completely wrong." Dr. Thorl stood. "May I speak as a witness?" Vexnor nodded permission. "I opposed Dr. Mitchell's research from the beginning," Thorl said. "I believed she was being reckless. Dangerous. I was prepared to have her arrested." He paused, his body shifting colors. "But I've spent 2 weeks watching her work. She doesn't take unnecessary risks. She documents everything meticulously. She monitors patients constantly. She agonizes over every death as if it were her own family member." "Your point, Dr. Thorl?" Vexnor asked. "My point is that human medicine isn't actually reckless. It's aggressive, yes. It takes risks we wouldn't take. But those risks are calculated. Measured. The humans don't throw lives away carelessly. They believe some risks are worth taking if the alternative is certain death." Another council member spoke, a being whose species Laura didn't recognize. "If we approve human methods, we legitimize approaches that our civilizations have rejected for generations. We tell our people that their medical wisdom was incomplete." "Maybe it was," Laura said quietly. "Just like human medical wisdom is incomplete. We could learn from each other instead of choosing sides." The council deliberated for 3 hours. Laura waited outside the chamber with Dr. Thorl and Nurse Pella. The corridor was packed with people. Patients. Families. Reporters. Everyone waiting for a verdict. Finally, the chamber doors opened. Counselor Vexnor emerged. "The Galactic Medical Council has reached a decision. Dr. Laura Mitchell, you are found guilty of violating medical research protocols. However, given the extraordinary circumstances and outcomes, we impose no criminal penalties." Laura felt relief wash through her. "Furthermore," Vexnor continued, "the Council officially recognizes human intervention medicine as a legitimate medical philosophy. Species may choose to pursue aggressive treatments alongside traditional approaches. Dr. Mitchell will establish a training program to teach interested practitioners about human methods, including risk assessment, patient consent protocols, and ethical frameworks." The corridor erupted in cheers. Laura stood frozen, hardly believing what she was hearing. Dr. Thorell's body glowed bright purple. "You did it," he said. "You changed galactic medicine." "We did it," Laura corrected. "This wasn't just about me being stubborn. It was about all of us learning from each other." Later that evening, Laura stood in the observation deck, watching the refugee convoy prepare to depart. The Asclepius had done what it could. 117 survivors would join those ships, returning to their lives. 6 bodies would be cremated according to their species' customs, their families mourning while also celebrating that death had been fought instead of accepted. Nurse Pella joined her at the window. "What happens now?" "Now we teach," Laura said. "We show other species how humans approach medicine. How we balance hope against risk. How we refuse to accept impossible as a final answer." She smiled. "And we learn from them too. Their patience, their caution, their wisdom about knowing when to fight and when to let go." "Do you think it will work? Combining human and galactic approaches?" "I think it's the only way forward," Laura said. "Humans have incredible medical knowledge. But we're also reckless sometimes. We need the galaxy's wisdom to balance our aggression. And maybe the galaxy needs our stubbornness to challenge their acceptance." She thought about her medical school professors back on Earth. About the doctors who had come before her, testing vaccines on themselves, drinking diseases, volunteering for dangerous experiments. The human medical tradition wasn't about being fearless. It was about being afraid but doing it anyway. About looking at death and saying, "Not today. Not without a fight." The refugee ships began moving, their engines glowing in the darkness. Somewhere on those vessels, people were alive who shouldn't be. Children who would grow up. Parents who would see their grandchildren. Futures that had been saved by refusing to accept what the universe said was impossible. Laura pressed her hand against the cold glass, just as she had done 3 weeks ago. Back then, she had watched people dying while the galaxy's best doctors sang songs and provided comfortable endings. Now those same doctors were asking humans to teach them how to fight. It wasn't perfect. 6 people had died. More would die in the future as treatments were refined and adapted. The human approach wasn't magic. It was messy and painful, and sometimes it failed spectacularly. But it also gave people something precious. Something the galaxy had forgotten how to provide. Hope. And sometimes hope was the best medicine of all.